Welcome back, deep divers. Today we're going to be looking at something,
Pretty wild.
yeah, I guess you could say that. We're diving into the future of sex robots.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and we've got some really fascinating sources to work with today. Like one is a prediction.
The prediction.
Yeah, from 2015 about
Wow.
virtual sex becoming like a normal thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've got this article about,
The dark side.
yeah, the dark side of sex robots.
Oh.
Yeah, and then
It's gonna be good.
And then to round things out, we've got this company. They're using robots to like completely automate IVF labs.
Whoa, that's a lot to unpack.
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about today.
Mhm.
So should we start with that 2015 prediction? It said that like most people would be having virtual sex by 2030.
Okay.
That's like right around the corner. I mean, what do you think about that? Were they on to something or?
Well, predictions about technology are always like tricky. The timing is always hard to get right. But the idea itself that virtual sex could become like, I don't know, the norm.
Yeah.
It's not that
I
crazy.
mean, VR is getting,
So much better.
yeah, so realistic and it's becoming much more accessible.
Right. Exactly.
And then you think about how many people are in long-distance relationships these days, or
We're just like interacting virtually more and more.
absolutely, the lines are getting blurry.
Oh,
And that same prediction, it mentioned like really advanced sex toys that by 2035 would be like integrated with VR.
oh, wow.
Yeah, it's kind of wild to think about where things could go from there.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, but let's maybe talk about some of the downsides of sex robots. That article, the one that talked about the dark side,
Right, right.
it made some really good points. Like it actually mentioned that some robots could be so strong,
Oh, really?
yeah, that they could actually cause like physical harm.
That's a little scary.
Yeah, it's definitely something to consider, right? Like you'd have to be really careful about the design and, safety and stuff.
For sure, yeah. If they're strong enough to actually hurt someone, that's a whole other
Yeah,
level of like responsibility.
totally. Like where do we even draw the line? I mean, if we're talking about machines that can, mimic human interaction, like how far is too far?
Yeah, that's a tough one.
The article also brought up something else, the possibility of these robots being used for spying.
Spying.
Yeah, like government spying. I mean, is that something we should even worry about?
Well, I think it's definitely worth thinking about if people are using these robots in, very private moments.
Yeah.
The potential for someone to like hack into that data or
Yeah.
misuse that information, it's something we should take seriously.
So we've got safety concerns, we've got privacy issues, and then there's, of course, like the whole,
Ethical.
the ethical side of things.
Right. Like, is it okay to interact with a robot that's, designed to...
Fulfill your every desire.
Exactly. Does it make us objectify humans?
That's a good question.
Yeah, I mean, are we reducing human relationships to just transactions? Just a way to get what we want without the,
Yeah, the messiness.
yeah, the complications of a real relationship?
Exactly.
I mean, the article even asked, if we do these kinds of things with robots,
Yeah,
does that change how we see and interact with other people?
that's a deep question.
Yeah, I mean, if we're getting used to, like, robots fulfilling our needs perfectly,
Right.
does it make us less patient with, real people?
That's so interesting. I mean, it's a question with no easy answers.
Definitely not. And it's a conversation we need to keep having.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Especially as this technology keeps developing.
Yeah.
Before we go too deep into the whole sex robot thing, though, there's one more source we need to talk about.
Okay.
It's about this company that's using robots in a totally different way.
Yeah.
Pretty fascinating.
You mean Conceivable Life Sciences?
Yes.
Hmm.
The company that's automating those IVF labs.
Yeah.
That's a great example of how robotics is being used to address like a very human need.
Right. And IVF is such a,
Complex process.
yeah, and delicate.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing that they're able to, like,
Yeah, I mean, automating it with robots.
it's like straight out of science fiction.
It really is. It's like a testament to how precise and sophisticated robots have become.
Totally.
So the article described these
I
robots
mean, what?
doing intracytoplasmic sperm injection.
What's that?
So basically, they take a single sperm and inject it directly into an egg. And these robots are using lasers to, like, immobilize the sperm first.
Oh, wow.
And then these tiny little robotic arms.
Tiny.
Yeah. They, like, pick up the sperm and inject it into the egg. It's mind-blowing.
That is incredible.
Right. I mean, the level of detail they're replicating is insane.
It really is. I mean, think about what this could mean.
Yeah.
It could make IVF so much more efficient.
Potentially cheaper too, right?
Exactly. And that would make it accessible to so many more people.
And it could maybe even improve the success rates.
Yeah, potentially.
It's pretty incredible to think about the possibilities, but like with any new technology, we have to think about,
The ethics.
yes, the
Mhm.
ethical side of things.
Yeah.
The article mentions some concerns about like OBGYNs.
OBGYNs.
Yeah, they don't usually specialize in fertility treatments.
Right.
And the article brought up the question of, like, should they even be involved in this kind of care?
Oh, I see.
You know, like
Well-
if we're automating such a sensitive process,
Yeah.
does it become less human?
That's a good point.
Like, is there a risk of losing that personal touch that's so important in this field?
Yeah, I mean, we have to be careful. We don't want efficiency and automation to come at the expense of, like, the human connection.
Right, and that brings us right back to the big question of the day, technology and human connection.
Yeah, it's like two sides of the same coin, isn't it?
Exactly. We've got sex robots that could potentially fulfill our need for intimacy.
Without the complications of human relationships.
Yeah, exactly. And then we've got robots that are automating the process of creating families.
Wow, it's amazing how technology is making us think about these, like, fundamental aspects of our lives.
Totally. It really makes you think about what we truly value in human relationships. Is it just about having our needs met?
Or is it about
Yeah.
the messiness, the challenges of connecting with another human being?
It's a big question.
Yeah,
And it's something we're going to keep unpacking in part 2 of this deep dive.
can't wait.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is a fascinating thing, isn't it? Like, we're talking about technology that could, like, fulfill our desires for intimacy without all the complications of, actual relationships.
Right. And at the same time, we're using technology to help people, like create families.
It's wild.
It is. And both of those things, the sex robots and the IVF automation, they both kind of force us to confront our ideas about like connection and intimacy and what we actually value in relationships.
It's like we're being challenged to really think about it.
Yeah.
Are we looking for, like, real connection or just...
Or just having your needs met.
Exactly.
You know, when I was reading these articles, I kept thinking about this quote. It's, technology is neither good nor bad, nor is it neutral.
I like that.
It reminds us that technology itself isn't the problem.
Right.
It's how we use it.
Yeah.
You know, and the values we, like, embed in it that really matter.
Absolutely.
So let's think about our listener for a second. Thinking about everything we've talked about with sex robots, how would you feel about, like, actually interacting with one?
Yeah, would you be curious? Would you be, like, totally creeped out? Or somewhere in between? I mean, there's no right or wrong answer.
Yeah, it's a personal thing.
It really is. It makes you think about your own comfort levels and, what you believe about intimacy and companionship.
And it's not just about what individuals choose to do, right?
Yeah.
We have to think about what it could mean for society as a whole.
Oh, for sure.
Like, what happens if technology gets so good?
That you can't even tell the difference.
Yeah, like the line between human and robot relationships just disappears.
It's like straight out of science fiction.
I know. And it's starting to feel less and less like fiction, you know?
Definitely. Remember that movie, Her?
Oh, yeah, that was a good one.
It really made you think about the possibility of having, like, these deep emotional connections with AI.
And it asks some really tough questions.
Like, can we really love a machine?
Right. And can a machine ever really love us back?
Yeah. I mean, it was so interesting to see those relationships play out on screen.
And kind of sad, too.
Definitely. I think what makes all this so interesting is that we're not just talking about robots and algorithms.
Right.
We're talking about love and intimacy and what it means to be human.
In a world where technology is everywhere,
Exactly.
it feels like we're at this crossroads.
Where we have to decide.
Yeah, like what kind of future do we want to create?
Do we want technology to replace human connection?
Or use it to make connections even better?
Exactly.
So where do we even go from here? I mean, we've talked about all these potential futures,
Yeah.
but what should our listeners be thinking about as they, move forward?
It really makes you think, doesn't it? We've talked about so much in this deep dive.
yeah.
It's like from those advanced sex toys
Oh, yeah.
to those ethical questions about sex robots.
And the robots in the IVF labs?
Yeah, it all comes back to
What do we actually value in relationships?
Yeah, like what is it that really matters?
We've been talking about technology that could fulfill our needs.
Without all the complicated stuff of relationships?
Exactly. But then we also talked about technology being used to help people have families.
It's amazing how technology can be used in both those ways.
Yeah, it really shows how powerful it is.
And how we have to be really careful about how we use it.
I think that's something our listeners should really think about.
Yeah, like as technology becomes a bigger part of our lives, we really have to make conscious choices.
Absolutely. We have to ask ourselves the tough questions.
Yeah, like are we using it to make our lives better or
is it like creating distance between us?
Right, and are we looking for real connection or just the easy way out?
Those are big questions.
They are, but I think it's so important to talk about them.
Yeah, the more we talk about it, the better choices we'll make.
Absolutely.
So, to wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave our listener with one last thought.
Okay.
We've talked about how technology is changing the future of, well, sex.
In relationships.
And even how families are created.
Mm.
But what about the future of love itself?
Ooh, that's a big one.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Like in a world where we might not even be able to tell the difference between humans and robots.
Yeah.
Can we really love a machine?
And can a machine love us back?
I don't know the answer.
Me neither. But it's a question worth thinking about.
Yeah, it might help us understand ourselves better.
And how we love.
And what it even means to be human in a world with so much technology.
That's a great way to put it.
Well, that's all the time we have for this episode of The Deep Dive. Thanks for listening, everyone.